we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So I hope you've been enjoying the last few days of sales. If you're like me and have been crafting and selling some of these new rank 7 legendaries, you'll probably be sat on a significant amount more gold than you were just a few days ago. Some people in our little community that we have here on YouTube and on Twitch have been sharing some ridiculous amount of success over the last few days, and I wanted to spend a few minutes today just talking about how and why this happened. We spoke about this in a bit of detail on the stream today, so I'm going to use some stream footage to fully explain it rather than going over it again. So I think I quite eloquently explained it on the stream. But for you guys here on YouTube, this is what we constructed. We constructed the golden cake. This is what appears to be Blizzard's recipe for success when it comes to gold making. It may not make total understanding for you now, but I'm going to throw it over to some stream highlights from today to explain how we build this cake, what is the recipe for this cake, and how you as gold makers out there can learn the recipe for this and can plan ahead to try and capitalize on in the future. If you may not have had the greatest of successes, or maybe you missed out this time, there's a good chance that you can learn from this and be ready to make the biggest and best golden cake there is possible. Enjoy the video, boys and girls. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you all next time. Have a good day. Peace. I don't think, unless Blizzard deliberately choose to have this happen again, we will see a day like we did this last reset. Simply because it was predictable, you could plan for it. You had these stacking layers. I think it's the best way I can describe it. Stacking layers of just craziness. You got your table there, right? Now on this table, we're making ourselves a delicious chocolate cake. We're making a delicious chocolate cake. This will all start to make sense soon, don't worry. We're going to make a delicious chocolate cake. We need a plate for the chocolate cake to sit on. Right. What usually happens most days, or we've seen big days such as, you know, patch launches. We've seen expansion launches, patch days. These sorts of things are quite clearly big days for crafting things, selling things, farming things, whatever. Really good days in history for gold making. But there's a few things that happened this last reset that just made it outrageously good. Like beyond the level that we've ever seen good. And so if you're making yourself a delicious chocolate cake, we're gonna make your first layer of your delicious chocolate cake. Can we fill this in? Your first layer of your delicious chocolate cake is, you know, your default stuff, right? Things that are you see on a regular basis. Something new. The fact that there was something new is usually a good reason to allow people to make some sales, right? When there's something new kicking about, people are going to be all over it like a rash. When there's something new, you can pretty safely sell stuff, right? What we also had, though, on top of there just being something new, it got even better than that. We not only had something new, but we also had, on top of that, not only was it something new, it was also, let's fill this one in as well, it was also something everyone wanted. Something new and something that everybody wanted. Already this chocolate cake is starting to look pretty tasty, right? So not only something new turned up, being the rank 7s, something that everybody wanted as well. Now, obviously, when something new turns up, there's lots of people that want it anyway. But what was the one catalyst to this that made it so much? What emphasized the fact that what emphasized that everybody wanted it? Well, it was emphasized clearly by the fact that not only was it something that people wanted, it was actually, we can go one step further than just what people wanted, it was actually the best possible item in the game for those players. Literally BIS. Actually BIS. Best in slot. So not only was it something new, but everybody wanted it, and it was best in slot all at the same time. Now already you're layering up these advantages to do some crazy stuff, right? But there's more. There's more to this story that made it not just a good cake, but is going to make this the best cake you've ever seen in your life. The reason that there's even more is because, from a goblin perspective, for the people who are crafting and trying to sell things, there are a few things here that still stack on top of this. The next one that stacks on top, big barrier. How do you spell barrier? Big barrier to entry. You had to take advantage of the rank 7s. You had to have not only your professions leveled, but you also had to have them significantly leveled. Now we're talking like 30 million gold leveled in some scenarios. If you were to get everything in place, right? Literally everything in place. Huge, massive barrier to entry there, which is almost the icing on the cake, right? But there's more. There's more. There's actually more to this. We have not completed the cake yet. There's even more. The one thing that I would like to put on top of this to continue our tiers of cakes, to make this the most lucrative day of sales ever. Why have I got one grey leg, by the way? Why did nobody tell me I've got a grey leg? Thanks for that, boys and girls. Appreciate it. On top of this, we also have, which has made it different to past events similar to this. We've had the fact that there's a little thing that I'm going to call zero friction. Is that how you spell friction? Probably. My spelling's terrible. There was zero friction. People had the ability to not only... The cake should be gold, shouldn't it, really? Should we make the cake gold? My eyes. So, zero friction. What do I mean by zero friction? Well, quite simply, I now... by zero friction, I mean there was no limitation between somebody buying the item and actually using it, right? So, the easiest way to explain this is to look at it comparatively. So let's take a look at what happened in 9.0. Let's take a look at what happened in patch 9.1. In those two patches, base legendaries have obviously been just ludicrous, right? Actually ludicrous. In terms of the fact that you could craft items that it was still something new, it was still something everybody wanted. In most cases, it was still best in slot, and there was still a big barrier to entry, but there was lots of friction previously. In 9.0, you could, in theory, craft a rank 4 base item almost instantly the game went live if you were to power level through it. The problem is there was 4 weeks from the start of the game before somebody could use that item, meaning that people had time, right? They had time to buy their base legendary items. There was no rush, there was no panic. They could buy them at their will. They knew that by buying their rank 4 base item, they were not going to have enough Torghast runs to farm enough soul ash to be able to turn that into a legendary anytime soon. So they could sit back, they could wait, they could let crafters craft, they could let the prices, you know, become competitive and come down, and they could cherry pick the time when they bought their legendary. Move forward to patch 9.1, the same thing happens again. In patch 9.1, we had rank 5s coming out first, and then only later on did we have rank 6s. But all at the same time, people were still farming for soul cinders. They softened the blow a little bit for the people that wanted to make these legendaries. You didn't just have to do Torghast. You could get your soul cinders by doing your assaults over in Korthia in the Moor. There were other different ways to get it, but ultimately you were bottlenecked by this currency. You were bottlenecked not by your ability to buy the base item, but you were bottlenecked by Blizzard saying, right, you need X amount of this currency before you can craft the item. 9.1, None of that shenanigans. The cosmic flux, no biggie. People have got all the cosmic flux they ever need forever. They were literally waiting for that one day when the crafters got the ability to start making those items. And then they could buy their item, they could take it straight to the rune carver, and they could then, they were away, they were done. They literally buy from the auction house, straight to the rune carver, bang, 291, best in slot, thank you very much. This is probably the most, the biggest influence on why sales of this last reset were just mental, right? Simply the fact that this was never a thing before. There is a cherry on top. There is a cherry on top. We're gonna make a cherry on top for this. We need a little circle to make a cherry. There is a cherry on top. There's a cherry on top here that's not necessarily. Now we're just gonna do. There's a cherry on top. Cherry on top of our little cake. Beautiful. Cherries are red, right? Of course, cherries are red. Cherries are purple, technically. Let's fill it in purple. There we go. There's a cherry on top, right? The cherry on top. We'll put this over here because it didn't necessarily make all that much of a difference, but it definitely would have had some influence. Is that people want to. This is the ridiculousness, right? There's the chance. Now, not everybody would have bought to, but people are going to want to. This was the cherry on top. Not only was there something new, not only was it something that everybody wanted, not only was it best in slot gear, not only was there a big barrier to entry to even be able to craft and sell these things, there was then zero friction for the people buying them, that they could basically, it was the equivalent of buying a 291 BOE for the majority, for most people. And then the cherry on top is there's the chance that people would want to buy 2 of them. Now, I don't know how many people this reset just gone actually bought 2 rank 7s. Raiders might have done. But the point is that people were at the very least incentivized to want more than one of them. Which, it's just madness, right? Actually madness. This combination of, I don't know what you want to call them, layers of the cake, right? We have never seen before. Literally never seen before. And I don't think unless Blizzard deliberately orchestrate a system to make, you know, unless Blizzard take the recipe for this cake and want to start a cake shop, will we ever see this sort of system again? And this meant that people were making gold cap cakes, like banging out gold cap cakes. It's not just the golden cake, it's the gold cap cake. People that were able to take advantage of this to its utmost were just printing sales, and it was crazy. And I don't think we'll ever see anything quite like this again. But boys and girls, that was my little TED talk, my entirely improvised. I hope you like my cake. That was my little TED talk on why I think this last reset is the most aggressive gold making opportunity we have ever seen. And I don't think unless Blizzard deliberately structure it in that way will we ever see something like this again. Now, there's going to be some smaller cakes in the future, right? There'll be some smaller cakes in the future, but they will not have this exact same recipe to them. Sure, in a 2 weeks' time, the second legendary properly unlocks, but by that point, a lot of the recipe for that cake is different. It won't be new to start with. It doesn't have that solid foundation of being new. People will have already had 2 weeks technically to wait for their rank 7 to come to the price that they're happy for. That, you know, you can't take the bottom layer off a cake and still call it the same cake. I don't like cakes. Alright, fine. Well, call it whatever you want, but it was just my way of describing it. But does that make sense to people? Does it start to make sense that this was a recipe for success that we could predict ahead of time, and we could plan for it, and many of us were able to really take advantage of it in a way that we've not really been able to do ever before. Makes zero sense. All I can think about is cake. We also benefited from the hindsight after 9.1 and 9.5, to be honest. If you planned us intently for those, you could have probably matched 9.2 numbers. I don't think you could, though. I don't think you could. You could have eventually, but you wouldn't have had the explosive one day. You wouldn't have had every layer in this cake. Because the way that 9.2 worked was that you could craft the base items considerably earlier than people were able to use them, and so the buyers had time to wait and buy. This time round, the people who wanted their legendary were waiting for the crafters. They were sat at the auction house waiting. There was a queue out. It's like an iPhone launch. There was a queue of people waiting outside the auction house, ready to buy these rank 7s. The very second that crafters were able to start making them. And this is why it was as explosive a day as we will probably ever see. For the purpose of, if I cut and paste this onto YouTube, if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.